Hey, how's it going? I'm IlaGolden and welcome to Ila Reads.
So, who do we think is behind it then? The words were out of Jet's mouth before any of them had a chance to unpack their lunches. Behind what? May blinked at him. These attacks against Echoe. His voice had more than a few heavy tones to it. I'd hardly call a chair being pushed over and faulty rigging attacks. Echoe shot him a look. The first was, I don't know, an accident maybe? And the second will probably turn out to be old wiring or something. Practice spaces in theatres like this don't get the upkeep they really need because no real audience will ever see a performance in here. I'm not so sure. Jet took a bite out of his sandwich. Arnie told me the rigging in here was only put in last year. Granted it wasn't new, but at most it was only about 5 years old when the theatre acquired it. Plus he checks it every morning and then again before we're hooked up to make sure everything's functioning properly. I don't like thinking someone's out to hurt you, Echoe, but... What do you think, May? She turned her attention towards the pixie. I really don't know, she shrugged. It's just as likely to be deliberate as it is to be an accident. We can't know for sure right now. But, as much as the excitement would be cool, I really don't think there's enough evidence that someone's out to hurt Echoe yet. Sorry, Jet. She glanced towards him. I don't like to admit it, and I'm probably jumping the gun as much as Jet is here, but I've got this unshakably bad feeling about this whole situation. Zanny sighed. You have a bad feeling about it? May studied him for a moment. Maybe I should take this a little more seriously then. I can't tell. Are you being sarcastic or not? Jet frowned. I'm being very serious. Her whole being projected a serious air as she spoke. Ever since we were little, whenever Zanny gets a bad feeling about something, he's always been right. We think it might have something to do with his strike abilities, but garden nymphs don't often have strike abilities, so we've never really had anyone to talk to about it who would really understand. Well, no one we like at any rate, or who would give us a straight answer about it. Everyone we've ever tried talking to about it has always been, don't worry so much about bad feelings, just concentrate on what you know is actually real, the telekinesis. Whoa, you really haven't spent any time around actual Strek users, have you? Echoe pulled a face. It can manifest itself in different ways amongst all the breeds who are likely to get it, and then again differently amongst individuals within that breed. Most of the enchanted breeds who are prone to Strek have either telekinetic or telepathic dominance, but most usually have mild to mid-level sensory or precognitive abilities attached. For example, mine always points me in the direction of my next project, and puts me off anything which will be an outright failure. That's why, even though I don't always have sell-out productions, I've never had a completely unsuccessful one either. So there really could be something to my bad feelings then? Danny eyed her up. More than likely, but because Strek isn't common amongst your breed, it's unlikely you'll ever be able to develop it into something more useful than a bad feeling. Hell, sensory and precognitive abilities are hard to develop amongst enchanted breeds prone to Strek. Why do you think mine is still stuck at the feeling level? Thanks, Echoe. He shot her a weak smile. But you've just made me feel better and worse at the same time. Better because I know there's a real tangible explanation to my bad feelings. Worse because that means there's really something to it now. Echoe, I'm worried you might be in serious danger here. I'm not sure I'd go that far, regardless of how real your feelings are. Jet's voice projected an almost bored tone as his gaze narrowed on Zanny for a moment. I was partially joking about someone being after Echoe, you know. Maybe your bad feelings are just about how unsafe this practice theatre is. Says the guy just defending a potentially faulty piece of equipment. Zanny looked almost annoyed. You can't say you suspect someone's out to get her and then dismiss my bad feeling at the same time. I believe my words were that I don't want to think someone is out to get her and that Arnie's really good at what he does. He rolled his eyes. Okay, so maybe a part of me is starting to lean that way. Getting all excited and certain about it when we don't know for sure it isn't just some freak undetectable fault isn't helping anyone. I'm just trying to keep things in perspective here. The last thing I want, that any of us should want, is Echoe feeling unnecessarily scared. You seem to be flip-flopping your way around this a lot. Zanny pulled a face. But you are right. I don't want someone to be after Echoe either. I'm just saying if someone is, they're not just playing around here. They mean business. Yeah, you're right. If there really is someone out there. He appeared to shudder. I'm just glad there were enough Strek users in the area to break a fall. If you'd been hurt... Jet's eyes lifted towards Echoe for a moment before shifting awkwardly away as he took a sip of his drink. Personally, I'm just glad 3 were enough. May's voice was somewhere between anxiety and cheer. Can you imagine what would have happened if we needed more than that? I mean, I really don't want to think about it. Why does it have to just be 3? Jet kept his gaze averted, his face twisted with deep thought. There were lots of people around who could have been Strek users, who could have helped out. I know Echoe's abilities are supposed to be above average, but the way her descent stopped, it was more like she'd been caught than anything. Those words made Echoe squirm. After everything had happened, she'd made up her mind she just imagined seeing someone catch her in the rush of the moment, and that Lil's explanation about the pooling strike abilities to slow her descent had been right. But hearing someone say it looked as though she'd been caught made her contemplate the possibility of invisible saviours once again. As if he could sense her thoughts, Jet's gaze once again moved up towards her. It was curious, probing, as if trying to gauge her reaction without having to address it directly. Then a soft smile pulled at his lips, and Echoe could feel a little piece of her heart melting. As much as I would love to believe 3 were enough, I think you're probably right there, Zanny sighed, bringing her attention back to the rest of the group. I'm just glad whoever the extra were, they weren't the ones looking to hurt Echoe. Again assuming anyone is out to hurt Echoe. Jet shot him a look, his tone and expression unreadable. We're still just speculating here. Hey, wouldn't it be really awesome if one of the ones to help out was Sonata? May's whole being began to bubble. I mean, I know she and Echoe aren't exactly close, but they are sisters, and I'm sure she doesn't really want to see anything bad happen to her. Yeah, that would be great, if she wasn't my number 1 suspect behind it in the first place. Zanny rolled his eyes. I know you probably don't want to hear this, Echoe, but from what I've seen of your sister so far, I definitely think she's involved with this somehow. As much as I'd hate to agree with you, I think you have a point. Jet's voice and expression were again unreadable. But she might not be doing it for the reasons you think. I mean, it might just be a cry for help or something, right? He shot Echoe an almost flirty smile, which she found both flattering and inappropriate at the same time. Whoa, I didn't realise it was like that between the two of you. Zanny's voice dripped with almost condescending sarcasm. Like what between who? May looked confused for a moment before an almost invisible light went on in her head and she bristled with flames. Is something going on between Jet and Sonata? Her attention turned towards Jet. Is she like a secret girlfriend or something, or do you just have like the hugest crush on her? Does she know you like her? Do you need help wooing her? Because I can tell you all the things you absolutely have to know to get a girl to like you, and I'm totally like a dating expert, and May enough. Zanny shot her a look. That's not who I meant, and even if it was, I'm not sure it's any better of an idea. I don't... Look, for what it's worth, Jet doesn't have a crush on my sister. He's just worried about the direction her life is going in. Said she reminds him a lot of his brother and he wants to help her. Echoe jumped in. I'm sorry, Jet. I know that was just supposed to be between the two of us, but... It's all right, Echoe, I understand. He shrugged and twisted his gaze away. Anything to shut them up. He got to his feet. I think I've had more than enough of this conversation now, though. I'm going for some air. Echoe, do you want to join me? Another flirty look, which was almost impossible to resist. For a long moment, Echoe found herself hesitating on her answer. She wanted to go with him, but doing so would put definite ideas into May and Zanny's head. Yes, she found Jet attractive, and yes, she was feeling more and more that attraction might be mutual. But she was still an older woman and a single murmur. Gossip was absolutely the last thing she wanted or needed. No, she shot him an apologetic look. I'm sorry, I'd rather stay here and finish eating. Suit yourself. He gave an understanding nod, then left. He knows something. Zanny frowned after him. What makes you say that? Echoe turned towards him. A feeling? I think he's just a little embarrassed. May shrugged. He doesn't really like sharing much about himself, and I did try and force him to. She giggled. I guess we really need to work on that gentle touch approach, huh? You work on that, and I'll work on keeping an eye on him. Zanny finished the sandwich he was eating. He knows something, and I'm going to find out what. It was weird leaving rehearsals early, but going at the same time as the other members of the crew at least made Echoe relax a little about it. Almost as soon as they'd left the building, May gave an excited little squeak and raced across the parking lot towards someone stood by the small wall to the left of the driveway. It didn't take Echoe long to recognise that person as Still, and a part of her felt strangely relieved. She wasn't sure why, but from the moment she'd realised there was something mutual about their connection, she wanted things to work out between them. May was a nice girl, and, of all near siblings, Still was the one she felt most like family. Then again, Still was the one she'd watched grow up the most in the time she'd known him, and his silent ways made her feel almost protective towards him. That guy has no idea what he's letting himself in for. Jet rolled his eyes. There's no way he's going to be able to handle a relationship with someone like her. Actually, he's exactly the kind of guy I was hoping she would end up with. Zanny tilted his head thoughtfully. I don't necessarily mean the silent part, but I think he sees the world in a similar way to her, and that means he's actually going to be able to handle her. Technicolor. Echoe murmured, more to herself more than either of them. What was that? Just something Still said. She shook her head dismissively. Something which makes me think you're right about them being a good match for each other. Well, that's my cue to go be a protective best friend, he laughed. See you guys later. See you tomorrow, Zanny. She waved as he darted off. Do you really think May and still being together is the best idea in the world? Jet shot her a doubtful look. I know they say opposites attract, but I think they're less opposite than you think they are. A thoughtful expression pulled its way across her face. I don't necessarily think they're perfect for each other, but I don't think they're a bad match either. I just hope they both manage to get something positive out of it. So you feel comfortable releasing someone you barely know on a member of your family like that? Jet cocked an eyebrow. You say that like a few weeks isn't long enough to know everything you need to know about May, she laughed. You say that like it's a good thing. People shouldn't just lay everything about themselves out in the way she does. It's just unnatural. Maybe, but at least you know what you're getting with her. Again, you say that like it's a good thing and I really don't get why, he sighed. And yeah, I know I sound like I have some major problem with her, but she's just so different, and I can't figure out if that's a good thing or not. Difference is what it is, and usually it's there to make life more interesting. Echoe shrugged as she pulled a piece of paper out of her pocket. Here, I meant to give this to you earlier, but, well, I figured you didn't want the others to see you with it. Your parents' phone number? He took the paper off her. Thanks. He slipped it into his pocket, shot her his equivalent of a warm smile before making his way towards a blue car parked near the entrance. I'll see you tomorrow, Echoe. Sure, she nodded as he left. Now alone, Echoe felt a strange wave of heaviness roll through her. Too much had happened and she wasn't sure if she'd fully processed any of it. But no matter how much she might want to have taken a few hours to get her head around everything, she had a school to get to and 2 beautiful children to pick up. As she pushed herself forward, something inside of her became heavier. The day would come when she would only be picking one of her kids up from school, and no matter how hard she might pray that day into the distant future, it would come around sooner than she would ever like. Echoe? Most of the 20-minute journey to school had been a complete blur to her, as she'd found herself unable to stop from dwelling on her own thoughts. The second she heard that familiar voice irk through her, the real world loomed back in. She was just about to cross the street she'd almost been run over in a few weeks prior when Cleo came into view. Appointment in the area? Echoe cocked an eyebrow at her by way of greeting. Actually, I had the day off. I've just been to see, I didn't know your parents lived in this part of the city. Echoe cut her off, figuring it's probably close enough to the truth for both women to be comfortable. Nia didn't tell you, did he? She gave an uncomfortable little cough. Tell me what? It doesn't matter, she shook her head. I wasn't visiting my parents, but I was visiting family. I have some good news to share with them. Well, 2 bits actually, and since you're here, I guess it would be best if I break some of it to you now. Save you from worrying yourself into some sort of state. I have never worried myself into a state, she shot her a look. Yeah, well, there's always the first time, she shrugged callously. I know Nia wanted to be the one to tell you this, but we've finally found a place. Oh. Echoe felt her insides drop lower than they had all day. Nothing's finalised yet, but if it all goes well, we should be moving in midwinter. Right. She shot her a tight smile before making her way across the road. Echoe? Cleo's voice carried after her, but she really wasn't in the mood to hear what else she had to say. Something about the timing felt so deliberate, as if Cleo had planned it all out. Echoe knew the thought was more than a little paranoid, but she couldn't help it. It was how it made her feel, and she really wasn't sure how she was going to handle herself for the rest of the day. How was she going to be able to face her daughter without bursting into the tears at the thought of her moving out? That morning, that moment had felt almost like a non-existent point in the future, and now it had a rough time frame. This more than the nearly catastrophic failing of the rigging felt like someone was out to get her. Only that someone was some omnipotent force she couldn't really argue with, and that really wasn't fair.
Enjoyed what you've heard so far? Please consider subscribing to find out when the next part's being released. Thanks for watching. See ya!